Life sometimes come at you fast. Tragedies make your life unravel. You feel like you wanna give up and stay knocked down. Even when your heart is shattered, you still got a life to live. You still got a life to live, so don't give up. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles. We are beautiful miracles, so don't give up.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me on my podcast, Beautiful Tragedy. If you like what you're hearing, would you please like, comment, share, and subscribe? And today I'm very excited to be joined by my friend, Ceramo Love. I think he has quite a powerful story to tell you all. This is my first episode where we're talking about something different than just child loss. So I really couldn't think of anybody better to do that.
Thank you.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So currently we have a foundation called Be the Light. It's a 501c3 foundation that specializes in helping families with the out-of-pocket cost of cancer care. Cancer care, hospitals have a tremendous ability to take care of people within the walls of the hospital. But once you get beyond the walls of the hospital, there's nothing. Few minor support groups, but nothing to help you financially, nothing to help you logistically. So we cover things like transportation cost, food, lodging, or just about anything else that will make you have a brighter day, which is why we're called Be the Light. So that's what we do.
Well, you jumped right to one of my questions. Is that who you are?
Personally?
Yes.
No.
Oh, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Be the Light is a...
No, you.
I'm going to get to that. Easy that. No, just kidding. Be the Light is a inspiration from my story. My story is one, I did 30 years of active duty service in the United States Navy, met my wife in 2010. We had a wonderful marriage by all practical purposes. She used to call us the most functional, dysfunctional family in America. In 2015, she was diagnosed with liver cancer, the same exact year, the year of my 30-year retirement. My retirement gift was I was diagnosed with bladder cancer. She did several years. She was given 6 months to live. She wound up living 4.5-ish, somewhere around there, because she was, as the doctors described her, as the world's greatest lab rat. She ran 5 miles a day. She was in outstanding physical condition with the exception of the liver cancer. So everybody wanted her to do a medical study. So even though we had really good insurance, I think the insurance probably paid for 75% of her care. The other 25% was like, oh, come to my study, come to my study, come to my study.
Wow.
So it worked out extremely well financially. She wound up doing a year-long clinical trial in Florida. Didn't get any better, didn't get any worse. August of 2020, she was running 5 miles, 6 miles a day. September, she couldn't run at all. She did my daughter's baby shower, slowly went downhill, and finally passed away February 13th of 2021. During this time in 2015, like I said, I was diagnosed. My retirement gift was being diagnosed with bladder cancer. Went through all the chemotherapy that bladder cancer entails. Gentlemen who are listening, when you have bladder cancer, the word infusion has a whole different meaning. Use your imagination. So I went through that. I went from the standard treatment all the way up to treatment that was $40,000 a try. It had to be refrigerated up to 5 seconds before I took it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. And the insurance covered all of it. The problem is that was the high road. That was it. There was nothing else on the market or available that could possibly solve my problem. So, it was only buying me 3 months of comfort, and then I'd have to go back in and do it again. 3 months of comfort, go back in and do it again. So finally the doctor comes to me and he says, hey, look, we can do one or two things. We can continue on this road, or we can remove your bladder, because even though there's a major inconvenience with having your bladder removed, you don't have to go through the pain and the suffering and all that craziness that you go through with bladder cancer. So they removed the bladder. He said, I have the good cancer. The good
There's
cancer.
a good kind of cancer.
Yeah, there's a good kind of cancer. So what he was referring to is it didn't spread aggressively. The bad side is the cancer cells were forever growing and sitting on a nerve bunch. So you're 0 to 60 of I need to go to the restroom, and then you go to the restroom, gone, gone. It just didn't exist anymore, which is part of the inconvenience, to use that word mildly. So I had my bladder removed September of 2020. Like I said, then Kirsten kind of went downhill. She passed away February 13th, 2021. I go through the Costco phase.
Tell me more about that.
Costco phase is an interesting phase. I call it a Costco phase because when people find out you have a loss in your family, they buy you these giant Costco pizzas. You can't eat them. You can't do anything with them. My refrigerator was jammed with casseroles and everything else. My counter was covered with edible bouquets. I'm sorry, you just can't eat that much fruit. That's just way too much.
Before it goes bad.
Before it goes bad,
Right.
yes. So the trash man loved me, but so after you get past the Costco phase, you suddenly realize one thing that we realize when you start resetting your financial priorities and things like that, you realize that the biggest expense you had was not in the hospital. It was outside of the hospital, the transportation, things of that nature. And if I'm going on too long, just tell me.
You're fine.
Okay. So in March, this time of year last year, Kirsten's insurance company pays off. I pay off all my bills, and I'm doing a 2-finger shuffle.
Now what?
Now what? Exactly. So I prayed a lot, and the way I like to describe it is if Jesus sits at the right hand of God, Kirsten was sitting at the right hand of Jesus, and Jesus didn't want to have anything to do with it. He just said, Kirsten, you got this. Go handle it. Go handle your husband. And what I mean by that is Kirsten always told me if I have an opportunity to make a difference. And she didn't mean to stroke a check and give it to a major nonprofit and call yourself donating. She meant do something that makes a difference. Boots on ground. Do something that makes a difference. So she had a Friday message that she would do, a Facebook message she would do every Friday. I think you might have saw the last one.
I think I did, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was her very last one.
Wow.
And she always ended it with be the light, be the ripple in somebody's life, which is where our logo came from. So her point was get out there and bring good to people's lives. You can't cure cancer yet, but I can bring good to people's lives. So that's where I started with $250 and a GoFundMe and a dream.
Wow. So what are some of the things that you guys do now or have done in the last year?
In the last year, we did a 5K, which was great. On her birthday, we had over 65 runners out in St. Peter's. And it was a huge, huge event. And it was a cleansing event for me. It was the first event that Be the Light did in her honor. We also get involved in other charities that are like yours, that are similar to Be the Light, maybe not be specific, but it's a wonderful duality because I can give as Ceroma and I can accept donations as Be the Light. So I'm constantly doing things back and forth. Just one thing I forgot to mention, Be the Light, 100% of Be the Light donations go to helping people. The admin funds where I fronted those from my wife's insurance policy. I think it was a great way to honor her.
It's wonderful.
And so 100% of any donation goes actually out to help people out there.
So people find you and they say, I have cancer, I need help. Are you open to any kind of help, or what are the parameters?
Be the Light does not discriminate. We don't discriminate. We are nationwide. I can't go foreign. That's a whole nother talk show.
Yeah.
We are nationwide. We basically, all you got to have is any type of cancer, and we will and fill out the application that's on our website, BeTheLightInDarkness.com. Download the application, fill it out, send it back to us, to our email address, brightshine@1181, gmail.com. And we will support you. We don't specialize in any type of cancer. I got beautiful people like you who specialize in childhood cancer and things of that nature. So,
right.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things you've mentioned is that you learned about how expensive it was to be driving back and forth. So is that one of the things? Do you do gas cards? Do you pay for people's Ubers? Is that kind of?
Well, one thing, before I give the specifics on that, one thing that I learned is, one thing the Navy tells me is just because you experience it doesn't mean everybody else does. So I thought it was just me. I'll be honest with you. I really did. I thought it was just me.
Right.
So then I started doing some homework, and I found out that there's actually a term called financial toxicity. Okay. The term was created by the healthcare industry, was created by the healthcare industry to kind of encompass all the things that people experience outside of the hospital. So, for example, the average person in a year long of cancer treatment will pay $2,500 more in transportation than they normally would. Wow. So you have your standard transportation costs and then $2,500 on top of that.
Wow.
A family dealing with cancer treatment over a year are twice as likely to file for bankruptcy, 3 times as likely to file for divorce, because it takes over the family. One of the things we're venturing out to is taking care of the caregiver is what we're reaching out to. So Be the Light is really interested in the whole group of people, not just the champion, which is what I call the patients, not just the champions, but the champion's family, relative. One of the things we did is we paid for a house cleaning for a lady who, you're sitting there, you're weak from chemo, and your house is just getting dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. And I don't care how well your husband cleans the house, it's never to your standards,
Right.
So we pay for her house cleaning. Another lady, we pay for a day nurse to stop by once a week, because even though her daughter was taking care of her, her daughter was just exhausted. So we pay for a day nurse, not for the champion necessarily, but just to give the daughter 24 hours apiece. Things of that nature.
Wow. So, my story was not the typical
not at all
child with cancer story. He was diagnosed on a Sunday and died 6 days later. So, we don't know a lot about what it's like to go through when your loved one is receiving treatments. And, can you talk a little bit about what that was like for you guys?
Well, first of all, I don't know which one is quote unquote better, the 7-day or the 1 year.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that, even though it was very hard on the family, the friends, I almost felt like yours was far worse.
And interestingly, I feel at times, not always, that Jackson was given mercy by not having to suffer. He didn't even know he had cancer. Do I wish he had a chance? Yes. But unfortunately, the outcomes for children with osteosarcoma are not good.
Correct.
And so I don't know if that's just me being very good at reframing, because I have become very good at that. But it's also part of my acceptance, that was his story. And I was just listening to a training this morning, and it said your mess is in your message.
Yes.
And like, I feel like, you and I both have done that. So, how has this helped you in your healing journey?
Well,
or hindered you?
Well, it's always a hindrance at first, but
right.
I do believe that, you take a lump of clay or you take a piece of marble and you chip away, but the statue is always inside. I think Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo said that one of the two. But my point is this: it has been a rough road, but I do believe in that saying, God bless the broken road. So one of the things you experience over long term is that question that most cancer patients get sick and tired of hearing, and that is, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? It's a repetitive cycle. It's vicious. And the more you take care of that champion, the more it encompasses the family. My stepson, God bless him, he had to hear his mother being sick. I think it's a memory he will never get out of his head for the rest of his life. And because, being in good health can be positive or negative. I think the rest of her hung around a very long time because she was in such good health. So he had to go through months of hearing her being sick and not being able to eat and watching her skin be destroyed by chemo, things like that. That's the other thing is the logistics are become a nightmare because you're used to 2 drivers or you're used to 1.5 drivers. And my wife and I had a perfect plan. She handled my stepdaughter volleyball. I've handled my stepson soccer. So now all of a sudden I'm doing both and I'm driving because she's too sick to drive and she can't drive. So it just wears the family down and the family just gets weaker and weaker and weaker. That family bond just really, really gets destroyed. That's probably one of the biggest lessons I learned from that episode. I'm not a genius by any means. Everything I do is from experience. So the ability to make a family's life a little bit easier, it's because mine wasn't. You know,
I agree. I mean, that's exactly where my story with Love Like Jackson came from, because I know what we have to offer can be life-saving for people. And, you know, nobody should have to choose between, am I going to eat or am I going to pay for my medication? And I feel like what you're doing really takes that burden away, you know, and it shows people that someone cares and someone notices. Because I know one of the things you've asked me, if you know someone who's had cancer, how long has it been since you've talked to them? Talk a little bit about that.
So that goes back to that Costco effect, the first 30 days. Everybody comes to the rescue in the first 30 days, but whether you have, the people who come to you kind of wean. One of the first things was told to me by a friend of mine who I've never met, a guy named Ty Nichols, he's a over-the-road truck driver, and out of nowhere he writes, but he was a friend of Kirsten's and my wife. And he writes me and he says, you will find friends that you never knew you had, and you will lose friends that call themselves friends. I did not understand what he was talking about until this happened. You have I call it a club. I think I mentioned that to you before. You have a whole new group of friends. So so the first 30 days or so, everybody comes to your rescue, but they have to get back to their own life. God bless them. They have to live their own lives.
Right.
And you suddenly wake up and you're alone. You are alone and you don't know where to turn. You don't know who to ask for help. I've stayed up nights talking to champions who wanted nothing from Be the Light. They just wanted to know that somebody cared that didn't have to. And if that gets them through another treatment of chemo, if that gets them through another day, just putting that in their toolbox and say, hey, there's a guy I've never met out there who cares about me. That's huge. See, I'm getting all misty here.
That's okay. So what would you say to someone who they know someone who has cancer? Like how, because I always want to try to talk about how we can do things better.
Yes.
You know, and because when you don't know, you don't know. And so, you know, what can they do? What are the things that are helpful? So, you know, yes, I needed that food, but I'm not going to lie. After a while, I'm like, if I see another casserole, and I mean, I was so thankful, but it's like, it's just, you get same old stuff, you know? So it's like people who gave gift cards or, you know, did Uber Eats or something like that. You know, those things are helpful because I'll be honest, I didn't feel like cooking. I didn't care. I didn't even really care about eating. I did because I had to. So what could you say?
But you ate at a minimum.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I definitely didn't lose any weight. So but you know, what do you think are some good things, because you've lived through it, you know, what are some helpful things that you could share to, if someone who's listening knows someone who has cancer?
Well, first of all, inherent in your question is probably the biggest problem, knowing somebody that has cancer.
Right.
And the reason why I say that is there are millions, unfortunately, cancer sufferers out there. They don't announce it. Okay. I don't announce that I have a bag. And usually I can hide it because some people do freak out on it a little bit. Women don't announce breast cancer. There's no T-shirt that says, hi, I have breast cancer, and they walk around with a sign or something.
Right.
And I use breast cancer because I get a lot of people who have breast cancer. So the first thing is just to know. How do you know? You ask. And don't accept the first answer. Because the first answer is always, I'm okay. Don't accept the first answer, because the first answer is a lie.
Right.
Okay. Once you know that person has cancer, you immediately, if you care about that someone, you need to prepare for the long haul, not every day. You don't want to burn out.
Right.
So it's better if you visit that person once a week than it is if you visit that person every day for a week.
Right.
This is the 21st century. We have multiple sources of social media. Text that person once a week. Right. DM them once a week. Post something about them once a week.
Right.
If you can't do once a week, do once a month. If you can't do once a month, do every other month. The biggest benefit you can give a cancer survivor is let them know you care. Yeah. Because it has been proven, even though they haven't locked it down specifically, it has been proven that the greatest weapon against cancer is hope.
Wow.
If you can keep the hope going, anything is possible. Wow. When you hear about those people who have miracle cures, or the people who have been cured from cancer or in remission, it all started with hope.
I believe that.
So the other thing you can do is refer them to me. Right. Refer them to Be the Light.
Right.
Because like I said, that third party care is huge.
Right.
We send things like skincare products because, like I said, I'm no genius. One of my wife's biggest concerns was her skin. We send skincare products. We send essential oils. We send T-shirts. I'm about to go into mugs because the number one thing they tell you with cancer is stay hydrated. So I'm about to go into mugs.
Right.
The list just goes on and on and on.
Right. So what do you do to take care of yourself? Because, you and I have had some conversations. We all know you can't pour from an empty cup. Mm-hmm. And personally, I'll admit that in the beginning, it started out with I was grasping at anything to make it hurt less. Mm-hmm. And then I realized that helping others helps me, but you still have to take care of yourself. So Correct. How do you do that?
Well, and in order to get to, and I'll answer at the end, I'll answer the end back to the beginning. In order to get to hope, you must first get away from denial. Okay. Mm-hmm. So the step one is, as an individual, you must stop denying. There's a term we used to use all the time in the gym called embrace the suck. Okay.
Yes.
You have to embrace it. It's not going away. Instead of being in denial or hoping for a miracle diagnosis, because you can always pull back. You can always say, oh, okay, it was bigger than they thought at the beginning or whatever the case may be. But it's very hard to rev up the engine. So the first thing you have to do is embrace the suck. That's what I've done. So every day on this planet is a blessing for me. So I honestly feel my mission is to help other people experience that blessing. So I exercise. I greatly watch what I eat. And you don't have to have any crazy diet or anything like that. Just eat healthy, folks.
Right.
And the reason why I say eat healthy is because when you go to that, when you're a friend or yourself, when you go to that doctor, they want to get straight to the problem. They don't want to have to worry, well, maybe you have diabetes over here, or maybe you have high blood pressure over here. And I know there's people who have it no matter what. But if you can eliminate that and just focus on the single point, it makes treatment and everything so much easier, so much better. That's awesome. I exercise on a regular basis. I just invested into an exercise bike. And the reason why I did that is because my time is so strenuous, not strenuous, but so limited that I realized I was spending more time getting to the gym than working out at the gym.
Right. Right.
So I bought an exercise bike. I work out all the time. I eat fresh vegetables, as many as I can. There's no limit to fresh vegetables, folks. Just eat. Protein from various sources, plenty of fluids. And then when you're done with that, more fluids.
Right.
Just keep pounding the fluids. It doesn't have to have anything sexy in it, just fluids.
Right.
Non-carbonated fluids is preferred.
Wait, so you don't be coming for my coffee, okay?
Coffee is its own food group.
Is my emotional support beverage, okay?
Yes.
Everyone who knows me knows. So don't take my coffee from me, okay?
Coffee is non-carbonated, and I'm a big fan of coffee.
Okay.
The only bad coffee is not enough.
Exactly. I was going to say, don't come from my creamer either, because that's actually, what I need.
But dairy, a cancer's best friend is sugar.
Yeah.
But your body needs sugar. Everything in moderation. Your body needs sugar. So a little creamer in the morning is not a big deal. The problem with most diets is people go from one extreme to another.
Right.
And you don't have to. And diet companies sell based on extremes. Mm-hmm. You don't have to.
Right.
But if you're going to do the creamer in the morning, don't do the Hershey bar at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Right. Right.
And then don't do the ice cream at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
I mean, what fun is that? But I'm just saying. Yeah. Okay, so that's the outside stuff. Mm-hmm. But what about therapy?
I have a fantastic therapist who is a friend of mine, who asked me not to use his name because he is a friend of mine.
That's okay.
And when I say he's a friend of mine, he's also on speed dial, to use an old school term.
Yes.
And when we talk, we don't talk necessarily about the grief process. His philosophy is grief is grief. It's going to happen. And grief is nothing but an indication of how much you love the person. That's what grief is all about.
Oh, yeah.
You cannot avoid it. So what we talk about is how to survive grief. I also go to a Tony Robbins disciple who is teaching me how to basically collect what you learned, but leave the grief behind. I'm a man of faith. Mm-hmm. So when I say a man of faith, I don't take the Bible a la carte. I will, so today I'm feeling sad. What does the Bible say about sad? And I'll go and I'll read. My father taught me at a very young age that the Bible is the greatest resource book ever written, because there is nothing you will experience in life that is not in the Bible.
Wow.
So even if you're not a person that, set your clock by when you attend church on Sunday, or when you turn on the video of your pastor, you can still be a person of faith. I do feel that I'm powered and empowered by God. And whenever I step away from that, God kind of reminds me to get back in line, get back on the right road.
Right. Well, we had an interesting conversation. I met Ceramo at a networking group, and apparently he saw me from a mile away. And, you sat down and had a very frank but loving discussion about me taking care of myself. Mm-hmm. And, life necessitated me taking care of Ivan and then helping my husband when he was sick. And in the meantime, as I'm sure caregivers who their family has cancer, they lose themselves.
Absolutely.
In it.
Yes.
And, I am just very thankful for you having that discussion with me, because it really did shift my perspective. And I'm saying, no, I need to take care of myself.
Yes, absolutely.
And thankfully, I had pretty good self-care in place before. And I mean, it's kind of lost its way in some ways. I maintain it, but, talk about the importance of taking care of yourself.
Absolutely. So you are never as good to anybody else than you are to yourself.
Yeah.
You do me absolutely no good as a cancer champion if you could barely walk or if you're exhausted all the time. So it's imperative that you take care of yourself, both physically, but more importantly, in the case that you and I talked about, emotionally, spiritually. Mm-hmm. The beautiful thing about caregivers and about people who suffer from loss, most of them have very big hearts. Mm-hmm. I keep having that scene roll around in my head from The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, when the heart popped out of his chest, Mm-hmm. Most of them have very big hearts. And I'm going to talk about you, if that's okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I can't talk in a third person very well.
That's okay.
All right. When I saw you, you were an open book. I could tell.
Right.
You have a tremendous heart. I know you tremendously love Jackson. I know you tremendously love your husband and Ivan. I know that. Okay. I didn't have to ask you those questions.
Right.
I just had to sit around long enough where you felt comfortable enough to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. But I knew it the minute I met you. I have that gift.
Right.
Okay. So when you and I started talking, I knew that you had shielded that heart, that the heart was bruised, it was in pain. And instead of you healing it, okay, so when a person gets a cut on the arm, okay, unlike when we were kids, we'll just do some dirt on it. When a kid gets a cut on the, when a person gets a cut on the arm, they have one of two choices. They can clean it, wrap it, and then let it heal, or they can ignore it and hope it heals. Okay, and when like there's a flesh-eating virus out there that they tell you if you ever get hit by it to draw a circle around it and with a Sharpie, and then if it spreads beyond the circle, then you have a problem and how big it's going to get.
Right.
Well, yours was spreading.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
But the reason why it was spreading is because you were doing absolutely nothing to protect that huge heart that you have. Instead, you made a decision to shield it. And then because you are a very intelligent woman, you justified it. Okay. One of the things I tell people is stupid people don't go to therapists. Okay.
Yeah.
Smart people are perfect candidates for therapists because smart people are experts at justifying and shielding. So what you did is you shielded your heart. Well, it was still damaged inside. It was still hurting, and it was still getting worse. Like any type of infection, it was getting worse because you did not treat it.
Right.
So our conversation, I was able, and I'm not taking credit at all, but I was able to express to you how important it is to tear down those walls in a safe environment, because the safe environments are out there.
Yeah.
Tear down those walls in a safe environment, but also be ready for the infection, because the longer you wait, the more it's going to come back on you.
Yeah.
And you did that, and I'm very proud of you for doing. That took a lot of guts. And I'm very proud of you for doing that.
Well, I think it took a lot of guts for you to say that to me because we didn't really know each other.
No,
know, but I'm also thankful, that I know that not everybody gets that opportunity where someone will sit down and say, hey, but I have big, important things that I want to do, and I can't do those things if I'm not taking care of myself.
Correct.
So,
and just to sidebar, I always tell people 95% of the things I do is out of love and grace. 5% are selfish. So that 5%, because I saw in you some of the things that I had done. I had really, really tried to put up, okay, so they say you will get over it. So this must be the point where I'm supposed to be over it. So now I'm going to block it off and move on, and I'm done. Thank you very much. It doesn't work that way.
No, I tried that too. It didn't work.
Yeah.
I remember I got to, it's like there's all this anticipation for the first year. The
Yes.
first year's the worst.
Yes.
Well, you get to the first year and I'm like, okay, I did it.
Yeah.
Can I have my life back
Yeah.
now? And it's like, no.
Yeah, I punched that ticket, survived the first year. Everything is going to go away, and I'm going to be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work that way at all.
Really, like what I want to talk about is, the title of the podcast is Beautiful Tragedy. And,
Yes.
while losing my son was a tragedy and you losing your wife was a tragedy, we've both learned how to see beautiful things.
Yes.
And you've probably
Yes.
had beautiful things happen to you. And, I'm very thankful that we crossed paths, and I think what you do is wonderful and absolutely needed. And so,
Well, everything, if you don't mind,
go ahead.
Everything is a choice. God gave
Yeah.
us free will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And freedom is terrifying. Okay. Everybody says they want freedom. No, freedom is terrifying. The
Yeah.
ability to do whatever you want to do is terrifying.
Yes.
But my point is everybody has a decision moment in every situation that's presented to them. So as tragic as it was, and as much as I loved Kirsten, I had to make a choice. What do I do now that she's gone?
Mm-hmm.
It's, to put it in a simpler form, everybody goes out and has a few drinks. Every time you have a drink, what is your tipping point?
Right.
If I have one more drink, I'm not driving and I'm not going to remember the rest of the night.
Right.
If I stop here and have a glass of water, I'll be fine.
Right.
Same thing about any other decision in life. You have that tipping point.
Yeah.
And you have to make the decision. Am I going to peel back the Band-Aid and go raw on the situation, or am I going to act like it never happened? But it doesn't change the fact, change the fact that the situation still exists.
Right.
You know, as much as we would like to bring Jackson back, as much as I would like to bring Kirsten back, or as much as anybody out there would like to bring that loved one back, two things are for sure. They're not coming back, and you have to make a decision on what to do about it.
Yeah. And, one of the things our therapist says is that if you replace the word hard with important,
yes,
it changes how you approach it.
Absolutely.
So is this the easier way? I don't know. Sometimes it feels very hard, but it's also very important.
Yes.
And, the way I wrapped up every episode in the first season was the Ram Dass quote, "We're all just walking each other home."
Yes.
Which is absolutely true. Well, it's season 2 now. So my quote for season 2 is a Maya Angelou quote.
Oh, okay.
We do the best we can until we know better. And then when we know better, we do better.
Absolutely.
And so my hope is that maybe we said something that can turn on a light bulb for somebody and they can say, you know what, I do have a choice.
Absolutely.
And so, I think we both have a message of hope. And I think it's important because I think our world needs it.
Absolutely.
It can be very dreadful if that's what you're looking for, but you can find the good and you can be the light and you can love like Jackson. Now, I didn't plan that, but that was pretty good, I must say.
Yeah.
That was good. That was good.
Well, they'll say, I'll give you your props on that.
Thank you.
The old saying, the only thing it takes for evil to win is for good to do nothing.
Oh, well, that was a good one. I'm going to have to add that to my list of quotes.
Yeah. So I do agree. Spread that spider web of good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your podcast is called Beautiful Tragedy. I think we need to make a strong effort to put a period between those two words and make your tragedy beautiful.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. And some of it, a lot of it is out of my hands. It's way bigger than me. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me. I knew it was going to be a great conversation. So I hope that everyone who listened got something from it. And until next time, thank you.